We are back. It's Coast to Coast AM. Connie Willis here. A Saturday night, Sunday for most people. And we're having a good time here learning so many things. Oh my goodness. Junebug ETs and more. Dave the Mystic is with us. And I've known him for a good, what is it, Dave? Maybe 4 or 5 years now, you think?
Yeah, it goes back to 2019, I think.
Ah, good memory. 2019. And I've loved you from the beginning. I love your sense of humor. I love how you explain things. We always have a good time. And I just want to say thanks for your friendship as well as coming in here and explaining some new things. Man, I still just want to man, Barry, man, what did you do, Barry? That's so amazing that he just comes to you like, hey, watch this, Dave. Whoa, that's pretty cool. Well, we wanted to ask you about, because we're going to be taking some calls a little later on, but before then, you were talking about that you've learned a whole lot about ETs recently and how they're in plain sight, how we can look for them, and just, some interesting things that you found out.
Sure. Well, a number of years ago, I started finding out about ETs hybridizing with people, and I started running into some of these hybrids, and typically they would look like young women in their mid-20s to late 20s. They would go in, and they were dressed so smartly that it almost seemed inappropriate for, dropping in on a conference or a talk or something. And you'd start looking at them and realize that their eyes were off. Typically, they would be wider at the outsides, and they were a little bit wider set on the face. And you start looking at them, and they immediately picked up mentally that you were scoping them out, and taking notice of them. And they start fumbling around in their purse, grab some sunglasses, put them on, and walk out of the meeting room and disappear. And I had this happen several times. But the one that really showed up a couple years ago that was so fun as sort of an example of them blending in. So my wife and I went out to go to McDonald's to get an iced tea in the evening, and right in front of us, there was, on the other side of the intersection where there was a left turn lane, a sedan rear-ended a pickup truck and a little fender bender. And we went ahead and turned into McDonald's, went to the drive-thru, got the iced teas, and we're sitting there in the parking lot, and it's raised a little bit, and it's overlooking the crash scene. No sirens, no lights. We see the truck driver who's walking around. He's a young man in maybe his mid-30s, and the other driver is now the car. And I finally tell my wife, look, I've got to go down and see if everybody's okay. And I've been through enough of my own wrecks. I know sometimes you just kind of sit there stunned. And so I walked down to the sedan, and there's 4 women sitting in it. And I talked to the driver, and the women look like they're in their late 60s, mid-70s, and they're all wearing these dresses, sort of like suits, that are kind of dated. I mean, they would be smart for the time, but they might have been out of date by 10 or 15 or 20 years. And I asked the driver, I said, are you all okay? And she kind of looks at me and says, well, yeah, I think so. I said, well, maybe it'd be a good idea if you turned off the car, because it was still running. And she goes, oh, yeah, okay. So she turns off the ignition. And I said, well, what happened? And she said, well, I was driving down the road, and I was following the median, and too late I realized that the median went over to the left for the left turn lane, and I ended up hitting the truck in front of me because I couldn't go around them. I couldn't steer around them. I start looking closer at this woman and the other 3 women, and I realize, by golly, you guys aren't from around here, are you? you got some outfits from Central Casting, and somewhere you snookered
You did
the
not
car.
say that. You did not say that, did you?
I did not say that to them, but I was definitely thinking it because the other three women were all sitting there mute. They weren't talking amongst themselves. They weren't saying, "Oh, Gladys, this is going to be okay. We'll get to help the other guy get his truck fixed." None of that standard stuff that you'd have. At least one or two of the women, taking charge and talking about it. They were all silent. This was like girls' night out from the planet, X, and they borrowed some outfits in the car, and oops, they got in a wreck and got busted. And it's also strange that a block and a half away was a fire station, no sirens, nothing happening, and I was talking to them as already 10 minutes after the accident happened, and I know people have been calling it in, but it's like there's some type of energy around it that was keeping the emergency responders from coming down. Well, they finally did come down.
Interesting.
But, I went over and talked to the young man, and it was a bad day for him. He just found out that his cancer, he just been told that it was reemerging. He had been in remission, and so a bad day, and then to have his car or have his truck get clipped by this car. But the women were just so out of place, and I've talked to a number of people, and I've also seen this where I truly do think we have a lot of ETs walking amongst us, and in many cases, they've learned a lesson that if they dress strangely, outrageously out of character, people these days are so scared to get caught out on looking at somebody who looks different because of our social insecurity about that type of thing. These, just whatever. It's how society has gotten to this point that if they dress, very strange, very out of the ordinary, nobody will stare at them because they're afraid to, and so that ends up being the best disguise for them. And I've had it a couple times. Other friends have had it where you see somebody who's looks very different, I'll just say, in a grocery store, very noticeable in terms of the color of the outfit, whatever, the appearance, and then you never see them again. It's not that you're deliberately trying to hunt them out, but you're crossing enough aisles to look down, and you may be at the front of the store, and you don't see them go through a checkout lane. You don't see them in any other aisles. It's kind of like they come and go, and I'm sure if they're doing this, that they also have the capability to mess with the security cameras in the grocery stores and essentially not leave a trail that they're doing this. So, these folks are, I like the phrase hidden in plain sight. I think they're here. I loosely categorize ETs in three groups: the ones that are very helpful, very protective of us. They want us to do the right thing as we're approaching this major vibrational shift of however that's going to manifest. Then there's another very big group of passive ETs who they're just hanging around watching. They want to see the shift happen, but they're not committed either way. They're not good guys. They're not bad guys. They're just watchers. And then we have that smaller subset group of the sort of the dark ETs who are interacting with people who are unpleasant on this planet and doing things that are just dark or negative. And but they're all here because as I'll just say, as I travel around the universe, and I go to many, many different places, I keep finding that we're one of the roughest, toughest places in the universe on this planet in terms of being a training ground for people who have incarnated. I know we're talking about past lives, and the idea that you come here to train, to learn, to grow, to have opportunities. And I think we're getting a double whammy here. One is that the Earth was never meant to be a tropical paradise where we get to sit on the beach and have little parachute or parasols in our drinks. I don't think it was ever intended to be that. A few people get that occasionally. But we're here to have challenges and to grow. And one of the bigger challenges, I think, is coming in the near future, which could be in 2 weeks, 2 days, 2 years, 20 years. But a major vibrational shift where we already know that we're in the transition from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius. Nobody can tell you exactly when that happens because the astronomical part of that just isn't that precise. But we're obviously in it and shifting. I think it's why we continue to go through these challenges like the financial crises of 2006, 2007, and all the political turmoil we have, the polarization that we have, the emergence of China as a global superpower, all these types of things. I think they're part of this challenge to get people to, I'll say, quit hiding out in their basements, playing video games and eating pizza. It's time to get involved and understand their moral strength and imperatives, and to get ready to be transitioned in some way. So
I kind of think that they're on their phones or playing video games and having avocado toast now. It's not pizza anymore. I think it's something vegan. Yeah. Just saying. Just got to cut you off there.
Whatever the latest frou-frou is, right?
Well, when we, it's interesting that you say what you're talking about. I've always followed Dr. David M. Jacobs and Bud Hopkins, and Jacobs' last book was They're Walking Among Us, is something like that, Walking Among Us.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about all that kind of stuff in plain sight and that kind of thing. And some of the things he talked about is, and some of the things I've noticed along the way too, but they talked about when you would run into a hybrid that they are amongst us. And I think a lot of our audience is already there in belief of that. We talked to Z just a few weeks ago about what he experiences and what he said to look for in the ones that he was communicating with, if everybody remembers that a few weeks back. But besides maybe the eyes and longer ears, and sometimes they're taller, sometimes they're much thinner, and sometimes much paler, or even green. We had Ben Lone Tree. He remembered meeting someone green, like a greenish color, like an olive green. But the other things besides the physical part, they would talk about the spatial part and the fact that they just don't know how to be a human being. And part of the hybridization project that they discuss at one point, once you're done with the physical part of taking the eggs and all that kind of thing, later on, they continue to use that life or abductee, contactee person in learning how to become a human, where they actually say, okay, a hybrid will come down and they want you to teach them how to make a bed, how to walk the street and shop, or do whatever to be a human, not just look like one, because they've pretty much established the look, even though it's a little bit different. But now it's, how do we act like one? And some of the things are, if you go up to New York City, people, you can be close to people. And of course, that's just the way it is because it's so many people up there. But if you're out in the country and you're doing a little shopping at the little main store, everybody keeps their distance. But the humorid, let's see, Jacobs even called them humbrids at one point, but it's always easier for me to say hybrids. But they would talk about space in a way of, okay, they don't recognize space-wise. If you're too close to somebody and you talk to them, or you're too far away from somebody, and talk to them. They don't understand that. They're not sure how to tie shoes. They're not sure how to do things. But one of the spatial things is, and people, this is interesting. I found this the most interesting. If you're on the other side of the street and I'm going to say something to you, if you say, "Hey, Connie, what time's the bus coming by?" And if I say to you, 10:30 in about 10 minutes. Well, I need to talk like this in about 10 minutes because I'm yelling over to the other side of the street. But they wouldn't know that they needed to talk louder because you're on the other side of the street. And they could even talk too loud when they're really close to you.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have anything to say about that? So there.
Yeah. Something I work with in people when I'm doing energy clearing work is people carry around something that I call imprints. Imprints are like energetic copies of other people's life records, and we all carry around a bunch with us. It's like we have a backpack full of CD-ROMs with other people's life histories, and we can tap into those subconsciously for information or decision-making, things like that. And I believe that a lot of these ETs show up here and they don't have any of that material. And therefore, whereas we show up, even as an infant, we already have this backpack full of other people's life records to kind of guide us to act appropriately, to have the right viewpoint. I think the ETs don't necessarily have that advantage, or the life records that they have, that they are carrying, don't have any application to Earth. It's just totally different societies. So I think that's another problem they have, and maybe in some cases they're starting to find ways to borrow copies of those, like run-off duplications of those CD-ROMs, so they can start carrying around some of that background material too, and knowing how to behave better or to come across and not be so odd, according to our standards.
So we got a couple minutes before the break, or about a minute and a half. What are things to look for?
I would say you're looking for people who they appear to be a little bit different. They may be somewhat uncomfortable being around us. In some cases, we may think that they have behavioral issues that might even, overlap into mental health issues because they just don't know how to work with people, So some of the people who we brand with the ADD or ADHD labels might actually be just much more energy of ETs in them. And when we come back from the break, I'd like to talk a little bit about the idea that people are energetically hybridized, not just biologically hybridized, and how this can affect people.
Okay, and we'll take some phone calls as well. Dave the Mystic is talking with us now. You can find him at davethemystic.com, also blogtalkradio.com, and look for Dave the Mystic. Connie Willis here. You are listening to Coast AM. You are listening to Coast AM. Hello there. I'm Connie Willis. I would love for you to join my shows as well, Blue Rock Talk, which you'll hear a lot of these same guests talking, and you can see them and you can actually talk with them too. You'll become a Blue Rocker. Blue Rock Talk is that show. I've got Connie After Dark, Connie Willis, the podcast, about to come back on again, and my book, Win Any Lottery. You guys were asking about that. Yeah, if you're good with a pendulum, you can use the system to pick winning numbers and teach you how to do that. And it's a easy book to find on Amazon, Win Any Lottery. But if you have any trouble finding anything, just go to my website. Sorry, I'm on that one too. ConnieWillis.com. ConnieWillis.com. Going back to Dave the Mystic, Mystic Dave. You can find him at davethemystic.com and also Blog Talk Radio. That's Dave the Mystic there as well. All right, Dave. So We're talking about your findings of ETs in plain sight. We're also going to grab some phone calls as well, but go ahead and I know you're going to talk about energy hybridization of people.
Yeah, and back in 2013, I really started to find I got inspiration. I got talking to by spiritual beings that rather than just being biological hybrids, people were being energetically hybridized, and it was a dynamic process, and it can change somewhat over time. And if you're interested, if you're open, I'd like to give you your numbers so we can talk about it.
Okay. Okay. Let's go for it. Is it going to hurt me?
So no, this is painless. So I look at these categories. The first one is human, and when I muscle tested for you on human, I get 43%. And
which
when
means...
I checked on ET, I got 26%, and angelic was 23%. There are other categories, but these are the primary ones I want to talk about.
Okay.
And what I find with people is, for the most part, ETs don't understand how rough it is here. Hypothetically, they understand what it's like to be on Earth, but once they get here, it can be a real shock to the system. And if that concept comes with them, and we have you with a high percentage of ET, it can be something that shocks your system too because of that viewpoint on that energy. The same is true of angelic. Hypothetically, angels know how rough and tough it is here on this planet, but it's a totally different thing that if they are incarnate and walking around this planet, among us, or if their energy is in us, it can be a shock to see that on Earth we don't guarantee that people have food, water, clothing, or shelter. Those types of basic things. We don't guarantee it on this planet. I mean, if you don't have it, you have to rely on others, and that reliance may or may not be fulfilled. So I do find this on people. And the other fun thing I found or interesting is that I can work with spiritual beings to change these numbers. So sometimes I get parents who come to me for help with their kids. Their kids are having adaptive problems, and I'll find that the kids are way too high on an ET scale, and they are not functioning well here because of these sort of core beliefs that the ETs have. And so by reducing that ET percentage back down to something much more manageable, I frequently get very good results with helping the kids do better and interface better with other people and have just a happier life. So
and that's by making the human part higher, or the ET part lower, or the angelic. How is that? By raising up one? Which one would that be?
Generally, I work with the spiritual beings to move the human part up to be much higher. Some of these kids might show up where the human percentage is only 25%, and the ET percentage might be 60%. And there's just something about that ET understanding of, or being the shock of understanding of what it's like to be on Earth, that it can very much affect these kids' personalities. And so we change it where they might slide up. I don't control the final percentage. I just ask for help and guidance in doing it. And the kids might end up being 85% human on their percentage for hybridization. And I get a lot of good feedback from their parents that very rapidly things start to change for these kids. So there does seem to be something there. I always tell people I'm not dogmatic, and these are the best I can do with models of what we're seeing for things that are in other dimensions, so they don't lend themselves to 3D. So maybe these are just great ways to represent this, and it's not fully reality, but I work with it, and I'm very evidential. I always look for results, and I've told people that If this stuff didn't work, I wouldn't be beating my head against the wall for 40 years trying to make it work. I look for results and I look for evidence. So this seems to work.
So you gave me a human percentage of what?
43%.
What was I, ET?
26%.
And angelic?
Was 23%.
So 26 is pretty high. Human 43 is kind of low, and angelic. So what would you, with those numbers, do you come across? Do you have any other thoughts of, oh, she's this, so we would put her in this category? What does that mean when you see that? What would you think?
What leads me, why I'm led to believe on this is that with these types of numbers, of course you're doing a show like this, and you're doing very well with it, and of course you have these other interests, and of course you have experiences where you see ETs and other types of beings. It's you've been primed for it with these types of numbers, so it's not outrageous to you. You don't run out of the room screaming. You have enough energetic background in this where it works well for you in your day-to-day activities where you want to pursue this.
Oh, there's still times I might run out screaming, but yeah, that's pretty interesting. I didn't even know what question to ask. It's like, what do I even ask with this? So thank you for taking that over. Let's go to the phone lines. We got a lot of people that want to talk to you. Wildcard line number 1, Samantha out of Los Angeles. Hey there, Samantha. You are on the air.
Oh, hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we got you.
Yep.
Okay, hi. I got on first. Wow. Well, I had one question, but now I have a little bit of a different question. Well, I just want to say I can very much relate to the idea of coming, when I was very young, I felt I was here for a reason. And it was a good reason. And I almost feel like now, much, much later in my life, I'm like, oh my God, I had no idea what I was signing up for. It is, and my parents were the same way, especially my father. They had the wrong playbook for this planet. And it's way harder, way more brutal. I was raised to think it was much gentler. And so I wonder what the percentages are of me and my father. But, yeah, it's been really, really hard. I totally feel like an alien here, and I always try to do good. But it's a very, so I don't know if there's any comment you can make, Dave, about that. Or
if I check your, since this seems to be a little bit of a theme right now, if I check your numbers on the human percentage of you being hybridized, I get 10, 20, 30, 40, 35, 34, 33, 32. So I get 32%. And when I check the ET, I get 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 65, 64%. So
wow.
That takes it up to 96%. So it's like 1/3 human and 2/3 ET. So would that tend to, or would that have a likelihood of you not feeling comfortable here in this setting? Yeah, absolutely. You have enough energies subconsciously that are saying, I'm used to, planet X21 where things are easy, everybody's telepathic, there is no shortage of anything. It's a pastoral planet. Everybody just feels good and comfortable. And then you come here and it's like, wow, frankly, this is the S storm on this planet in terms of how people interact compared to most other races in the universe. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me that you might feel out of place, out of touch. Things are difficult for you to reconcile in terms of how you see people treating other people.
Interesting. Wow. Samantha, good question. And she described that perfectly for you to come up with those numbers. Was there any angelic in her at all? She was just
1, 2,
ET.
3, so two is very low though. The other two added up to 96, so that's the majority.
Wow. So that's interesting. I know along the way that I felt like, man, I just don't belong here. I'm out of, it just doesn't feel right. But you always do know you're here for a reason too. So there's always some reason. Do you know a way to find out what that reason is? Like our earlier guest, his way is, hey, we'll take you over to the afterlife and you can ask. How do you find that out?
When I tell people and they ask, what am I here for? What is my purpose? What should I be doing? I just tell them, frequently the spiritual plane does not tell me that because they want you to go out and try a lot of things. If I said, you're supposed to be a plumber, you're going to be a plumber your whole life, you're going to die a plumber, then the person might just walk out there and say, okay, well, that's it. I don't have any other decisions to make.
Yeah,
and that's not what the spiritual plane wants. Pardon me. They want you to try things, and so they don't want to make you feel like you're just preordained to be something.
Makes sense.
There can certainly be plans for you, but they want you to try things. They want you to experiment on this planet.
Well, go ahead and use that cough button that you have over there, and I'll get another caller on the line for you. We are getting closer to the end of time. The old famous cough button that we love to have. International line, let's talk to Don out of Alberta, Canada. Hey there, Don, you're on the air.
Hey, Connie, I feel like I'm time traveling tonight with your bumper music.
All right. Anyway. Good.
Anyway, it's good music. I like it. I haven't heard some stuff like that in a while. I had a couple comments for Dave, and then I was up to 3 questions, but I might have to cut it short. But
you're going to have to cut it short. We only got a few minutes, so definitely cut it short.
ETs, the one thing you can't do is project your energy at them, or if you have to think of, like, if you want to approach them, you got to think of, like, beaches and the sun and stuff like that, because they'll pick up your energy. They can see your energy, and they can pick up what you're projecting. As soon as you put your attention on them, they know it. Anyway, and the ones I see, there's some, I haven't run into those ones, but my friends say they have no energy field around them, like the friends that can see auras. That's how they can spot them. But as soon as they try to go approach them, then they would take off. But anyway, so we were all smoking peyote on the other side and decided to come down to Earth. That's great. My question was about the energy transition that's occurring. I know we're at the end of a 26,500 year cycle or whatever it is, and we're going through the galaxy at 500 miles an hour. But and the frequency that we're coming into is
quick question. We're going.
Right. Is it going to be a fast transition, or is it going to be a slow transition? And how what can people do to make the transition run smoother? I guess. There you go.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Go ahead as quick as you can.
Yeah, my feeling are there are 7 vibrational levels of Earth. We're on number 3. There are 4 above us, and I perceive that people are already leaving the planet and going to some of these other higher vibrational levels of Earth, and a few people are going to lower vibrational levels because that's where their personalities or possibly their religious beliefs are taking them. But I just see all this stuff being stirred and setting us up for a transition for big things to come. So, and I think it's in the very near future. So I think that's why we have all this interest from the ETs.
DaveTheMystic.com, also blogtalkradio.com, and you can look for Dave the Mystic there. It's the / Dave the Mystic. Dave, thanks so much for being with us. Any last tiny words?
I would just say things aren't as bad as they seem. People just get overdone by the news. So stay positive. Go out and have fun. Find ways to entertain yourself, and don't feel guilty about it. Go do what makes you feel good.
Yeah, and look up. Don't always look down at your phones, right? Look up and look out and see things, right?
Yes. It's happening all around us. Just open yourself up to the possibility that you may see things in the sky. You may see phenomena in trees and bushes near you. These things are showing up for so many people.
And look behind those Foster Grants. Thank you so much, Dave the Mystic. Also, Regan Forston before that. And thank you guys all for listening to the show. If you enjoy it, write in and say, hey, I love it. It is just great. George and Nori, we're having so much fun. We love this. Thank you so much. So from the foothills of the Colorado Rockies, I'm Connie Willis, and we want to thank those that put this show together. That is Julie Talbot, Bill May, Lisa Lyon, Tommy Danheiser, Dan Galani, Stephanie Smith, Mike Cosio, Lex Lonehood, Sean Ledesur, Tim Banal, Gina Salvati, Donna Walker in with us tonight, Ryan Stacy, Chris Burrows, Ian Punnett, Lisa Garr, Richard Searett, George Knapp, and of course, the man, of course, the star, the guy, George Norrie. That's the Coast to Coast AM team. Happy to be a part of it. Join me at ConnieWillis.com. That's Blue Rock Talk, Connie After Dark, Win Any Lottery, and Connie Willis, the podcast. I'm working it, baby. Until we meet again, keep watching the night skies and continue with me to seek out the strange and uncover the unknown. For Coast to Coast AM, I'm Connie Willis. Good night.